Welcome, everyone, to the EarthRanger walkthrough, EarthRanger web front end. We're having a discussion earlier talking about, does anyone understand when I say I work on the front end? Do they know what I'm talking about? Or should we say, we work on the web? And then now saying, Joshua writes the web and I just enable the web.
Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Developer. So anyway, yeah. So I'm Chris Jones, engineering manager for the EarthRanger team, and with me today is Joshua Krautwurst. He's our technical lead on the core and web system for EarthRanger. It's what you see in the control rooms, the web front end. So we're going to walk you through using EarthRanger today. So let's get going.
All right. So EarthRanger, as you're well aware, is a domain awareness system. You might have heard DAS before. That's the legacy name of the application. And it provides situational awareness and analysis for tracking and managing assets, people, sensors generating data, vehicles, as well as the ability to file field reports so that you have clear and central communication with what's happening at your protected area. It also provides the ability to track, manage, and analyze patrols. And it lets you describe your site in terms of points of interest, such as fences, boundaries, outposts. It also provides some built-in analysis for interpreting the relationship between these different data and alerting you if something operationally important comes out as a result of the way that data is interacting.
All right, some terms, just so we are in a common area for talking about EarthRanger. So originally, we called it DAS, DAS, the Domain Awareness System. We can thank Ted Schmidt for that. And then, as we talk about our two primary things that we're collecting it's track data. It's where the animals are, where the people are, where the vehicles are, and what are the sensors out in the field. And the second piece is data collection. So did I see a spore? Did I see tire tracks? Did I see a vehicle? Did I run into someone? I want to describe them. So that's our data collection. And to do that, we call it an event. So the event would be, I heard a gunshot. An event would be, we saw a flashlight or a light at night. And so we call that internally, we call that an event. And it also became, working with some of the military personnel that, do security at the parks, they think of that as a field report. So then the vernacular became field report. So if you hear us say report or field report, that's an event. That's a data collection point. That's a carcass was found, a light was seen. So you kind of see those terms interchangeably used. And report doesn't really mean PDF or a Word document. It's a data collection point. And each event is usually it's tied to a location and a time, and has some basic other fields for that. And then we have the ability to collect specific data for each type of event or field report. And we'll get into that. The other thing I want to talk about was real brief incident. So an incident allows us to then collect, reports that are familiar or related to each other. And we'll show what that looks like in ER. The last thing I just wanted to touch on real quick is subject. Weird name, I guess, but a subject is a vehicle, it's a ranger, it's an animal, and a subject then carries a device on them, GPS tracker. A subject can also be a weather station, and that weather station has temperature sensor, it has wind sensor. So those are devices that are then subjects. So let's go on.
Thanks. So we'll just do a brief overview of some of basic usage of the map in EarthRanger. So you'll notice that the main layout of the dashboard is comprised of a large map view of your protected area, as well as a sidebar that contains various feeds and lists related to operational data like reports and patrols, or geographic features and other things on your map in the map layers tab. The map itself has a number of base layers that come out of the box, as well as the ability to add your own. So if you have a feature service that you spun up, or you have something that just adheres to a regular map specification, let's say you have like a vegetation density index that you want to add as the base map when you're now analyzing something, you can add it here. And that allows you to, if you prefer a certain satellite imagery provider because they have higher resolution imagery, or it's more up to date, so you get a better like contemporaneous view of the, environmental conditions, you can do that. And there's tons and tons of options out there. We also have a dropper marker control right here. And what this allows you to do is to select exactly where you would like to file a report or view the coordinates. You can copy those coordinates to the clipboard, and if you operate with a different representation of location, you can change to the military grid reference system or any of these other 5 options that we have. Using this plus button, you can also start to file a new report, and that report will be tied to that location automatically. The ruler tool allows you to measure from point to point, distance and bearing. It is not restricted to 2 points. You can do it for any arbitrary set of points. It will give you the total length, the bearing from the start, and at each point along the way, you have the length from the beginning to that point and the ability to file a report from that point. So this is more useful than a regular ruler. You can also use it for annotations in briefings. You can just use it to temporarily mark up things on the map. You can just use it to, get gut check distances to communicate to people in the field before sending them somewhere. You can give them the bearing for the same reason. And if any of that work is tied to a report you need to file, you can do it directly from the points you've set. To dismiss the ruler, you just click away or close it. So it's temporary. It doesn't generate any permanent features on the map. We have a very rudimentary print control. So you can give it a title, and it will allow you to print your current map view. So if you need to pin that to your corkboard for any reason or sketch on it. We have some map settings, which allow you to control various aspects of the display and the data layout of your map. So for example, because you can control the pitch and bearing, you can view your map however you'd like. Easter Island is pretty flat, so the 3D terrain isn't particularly spicy here. But you can also choose to show and hide your data as you see fit. Let's see, there are a couple of other basic controls on the map. So you have a legend or a ruler that gives you the scale of your current map view, and then just plus and minus buttons to zoom out if you'd like. Also, if you get a little lost in the weeds adjusting your map and you want to go back, this compass shows you your current direction, and when you click it, you go back to a reoriented view. So it's an easy escape hatch for getting out of a strange view. Related to this, we recently changed the way that settings are controlled in EarthRanger to surface more administrative features into the end user experience for easier usage, fine-tuned configuration, as well as a clearer way to find some new beta features that we're testing that we could get early feedback on. So you'll see down here, we have a little settings pane with a number of experimental features, as well as the ability to persist the state of your report filters, your patrol filters, and your map position and zoom level. So if you work in something domain specific, you're an ecologist, and you really, during the course of the you can find them, and then when you refresh, you'll see that your filters are the same. Then, if I choose to persist my map position and zoom level, you'll see that once again, I can jump to one of these. When I refresh, it brings you back. So that way you maintain the spatial and contextual awareness that you've set up to make sure that you're operating as you wish.
So yeah, that new save your settings so that when you refresh the screen, it goes back to where you were. People have been asking for that, and that's our stepping stone to actually be able to save views so that I can, contextually go to the last view or a previous view that I was interested in. So now we're going to talk about more of the map layers tab. We'll talk about map layers and then the spatial data. Okay. And let me go back to Easter Island. It's more map layers. So, as Josh was showing, we have different ways of kind of spinning the map around, changing what the look is of the map. And then as we're trying to find things, what we can do is we go out to the map layers tab. So let's say, we're a really big park and I'm trying to find where our elephants are. So, either I can drop down, select here where Horton is, or I can go into the search and, search for Horton. Anything that's listed in this view, I can go find. So as far as rangers, I could start typing in ranger, and I can quickly find where Ranger Danny is. Now press the dropper, and then immediately be sent there. I can also control, whether we show tracks right now. So if I click on the track viewer, so now it's shown, and then it'll remember and keep those tracks up, and as well as going to Ranger Lee. We also have a way of looking at our spatial data. So if I've uploaded, let me clear the search further. Okay. We also can jump to spatial data. So these are the roads and boundaries that we've already uploaded to the site. So I can quickly say, here are the no entry zones. Oh, I want to figure out where the no entry zone is and jump right there. Okay. What else are we going to talk about? So we're going to go on and talk about EarthRanger reports next. Let's see. Too many screens. Okay, EarthRanger reports. Are you going to do that one, or am I? Let's see.
All right.
Okay.
So field reports, events, whatever you'd like to call them, are one of the core types of information that you can capture in EarthRanger. This is a replacement for paper reporting and many other less manageable, searchable, analyzable means of collecting information. It represents something happening, usually at a place, at a certain time, that affects or is a part of the operations of your protected areas. They are found all over the map. You can get them in a number of different ways. You have a real-time feed that stays up to date. As people file reports from other locations, they appear in the feed. They resolve them, it goes away, etc. You see them in place on the map so that you can understand where this report is happening, what's its relationship to potential rangers or animals nearby, etc., etc. And they all have a few things in common. So all reports have a type, so it can describe this was a gunshot, this was an arrest, this was a spore. They have a date and time. They have a priority value, which you can use to set and indicate, oh, this gear sighting is, high alert, we need to pay attention. Not great, probably okay, or low priority. You can also select who reported this so that you have a clear understanding in terms of the history and chain of communication around this report. And you can view, copy, or edit its location. You can write it in by hand. You can select to use your current computer location, or you can select a new location for a report directly on the map. Additionally, all reports have flexible data models that you define. So EarthRanger comes with a set of out-of-the-box report types, event types, that you can extend, change, modify, copy, delete. And that allows you to capture the information that's appropriate for your site, that fits your SOPs, your regulatory, needs. All reports also allow you to do things such as attach images and other types of files. And if there's any information that's important to the report, but it's outside of the structured way that you've put it together, you can use notes to capture additional information. So if you need to leave a note from one operator to another for the next time they pick it up, if you need to capture an important detail that isn't yet in your data model, good place to do that. You can also combine reports into what's called an incident collection. And an incident collection is, oh, here we go. Is a set of reports. So you'll see that this looks very similar. You'll notice that it shows a card stack to indicate there are multiple reports inside. And down here, you see an activity feed that details all the reports inside of this incident collection. This is really just a different kind of report whose job is to group related reports together so that you can tell the story or understand the full history of something happening. I hear a gunshot, I investigate, I find a trail, I make an arrest. Each of those, the gunshot, the investigation, the discovery of the trail, the arrest, those can be different reports. You tie them together in an incident collection so that they're described together. You can also preview the saved content of all of your reports in the incident collection, which is a nice feature. And you can jump to its location on the map. You can add it to a patrol, which we'll get into a little later. And you can do a couple of other things. Clicking this link copies the report link to your clipboard, and it allows you to directly drop that in and be linked immediately to the report again, so that you don't have to go back and explore your filters and explore your map to find it again. You can share this with other EarthRanger operators. They can click it, they can go to it directly. We also have print styles. So if you need to print this as though it's a document that needs to be shared in physical form for some reason, you just select print report and you have the individual report as the only thing being printed. All right, so now Chris is going to talk a little bit about some of the improvements and patrols.
Okay. Thanks, Joshua. All right. This past year, we've done a bit of improvements on the UI for events and patrols. So Joshua went through all the events part, and we'll go and check out patrols. And notice how we're able to quickly go between the reports view. So this is the list view. We can quickly drop into this report and then come back out. So everything's very connected. So the next thing we'll go check out patrols. Okay. So we've kind of consolidated what the view looks like on the list view of patrols. So we still have quickly can execute like starting patrols, canceling, or as Joshua was showing, copy the patrol link so I could post this on social media and maybe someone else could take a look at that if they had a login. Okay, so let's go check out the patrol itself. So we've cleaned up this form. It was very boxy before. Just had like one panel for looking at all of the reports that were associated with patrol, but now we've laid this out in a much better tabular format. With these quick links, we can jump to each section of the patrol, so we can jump back and forth. Similar to reports, we can add notes, attachments directly to the patrol. So we can add a note. Done. That gets added. Quick button for starting the patrol if this one hasn't been started yet, as well as stopping it. Let's see. Let's go back up to the top. We can choose who's being tracked by this patrol, and then the basic start stop times. We can automatically have it start. Let's say the night before I could create a bunch of patrols and have them start at 8 a.m. in the morning. And then same with the stop, I can say, well, these patrols start at 8 and end at 5. So we can set that up so it'll automatically start and stop at those times and then be tracked by this patrol leader. Let's see. And then another new feature we just added recently is be able to, let's see, it was print It's over in the other UI. Yeah. Okay. This says it's this UI here. We've got some preview features like the settings. This has not released out to the public yet. That'll be coming out pretty soon. And then as well as printing. So now we have a new feature for printing the patrol. So you could go ahead and do that. It creates a nice tabular format, and then you could print this out and I guess post it in your command room. Say this is the best patrol ever. This is how we like to do it. Okay.
So some of the observant among us might notice the similarities between a patrol and something like an incident collection. You know, it's a special type of report-looking entity. Device connected to EarthRanger, it will automatically tell you the length that they have traveled during the course of that patrol. So it gives you a kind of a rudimentary glance at patrol effort for this.
This one's done, so this will show us that.
It didn't go anywhere. So you can see at the top, under the title of the patrol, Amos Patrol, it operated for 1 minute and they traveled for 0 kilometers. Yeah.
Oh, here's one.
And that one has been going for way too long and has gone just over 3 kilometers. So you can see that during the course of your patrol, you get the effort to date, and then when you complete it, you get the summarized effort as well as the list of reports you've collected.
So it sounds like Joshua needs to get out of the building. He's been stuck here all week.
That's true.
All right, thanks.
It's lovely here. All right, as mentioned, another one of the fundamental concepts within EarthRanger, subjects. Animals with research collars or chips embedded, people carrying GPS-enabled devices. They're also subjects that don't have to move. It's any sensor that generates data that isn't necessarily a field report. So think about measuring the voltage of your electric fence or a water hole level or a weather station. There's pretty much an infinite number of types of subjects that you can do. So if you have something generating data, you can pump it into EarthRanger and have it all in the same place so you understand what's going on. Here we have a number of subjects. Here I am on my patrol. Right now you can see that because I've given my browser access to my computer's current location, it also shows my location on the map. When you click on a subject, it pops up a summarized little set of information saying, here's the date and time that we last detected new information for this subject, in this case, a ranger, myself, as well as the location currently, the ability to copy that or change the format, the total length within the last 21 days, or whatever other track length you set of how far I've traveled. So I haven't actually walked for 16,000 kilometers. I had this on when I was on the airplane here. Don't be too worried. In addition to that, by default, just for a clean view, quick analysis, you click it, track comes on, click away, it goes off. If you need to persist that track for further analysis, look at it in the relationship to other reports and subjects and things going on, you can pin them by clicking that button once, and now my tracks will persist until I specifically elect to turn them off, either by the track button one more time or by closing this legend that details how you control your track length. We also have a heat map, and just to be clear, this is probably the least scientific heat map that's ever been applied. It is just basic point density. So I wouldn't use it for scientific analysis, but hopefully that's a little too hot. But you can use it for some basic assumptions and just a good visualization, such as, all right, where does it seem like my ranger has been over-focusing and under-focusing effort? Or let's say you set this radius, which little secret feature, you can click in there and type it in, to a certain size. You say, okay, I know that the current visibility conditions in this plain line of sight area is about 1.5 kilometers. So I can assume that they have been able to visually cover this range in the course of their walking around or patrol. So there's different ways you can use it. Just don't use it for scientific analysis. Please don't hold me to that. Going on to stationary subjects. Let's find one. So as I mentioned briefly, and here we have a weather station. Stationary subjects have a little bit of a different visual presentation, and you'll see that you get some nice additional features, such as the ability to hide or show their last bit of metadata. So if you saw, you could see the current temperature that this weather station has generated. You can also view a table view of historical data. So you can look at your weather trends over time. Additionally, when you get dense data on a map, let's watch researcher Sari and Ranger Lee, for example. If you can have what's called a cluster, which gives you a summarized view of data which is so close together that were it not clustered, it would be hard to represent, hard to visually parse. If you so desire, you can control whether reports or subjects or both or none are incorporated into clusters. Let me just show you why it's often prudent to use them. Because when unclustered, if you have a lot of operational data, it can get noisy. So this is a great way to summarize the data. It has a couple of nice little baked-in features, like the higher priority items in a cluster are put to the top. So if you have a red priority report and a green priority report, it'll show the red one first. That keeps you first blush aware of the most important thing happening in that location. If you click on it, it will zoom in to expand the cluster, meaning it will make you close enough to the map to see a sufficiently detailed view of some of the data. If it is no longer possible to zoom in because you're already very close, here we can just add a little something to this cluster to make that happen. Oh. This is a test data type. Oh, species, yeah.
So we're just adding a few more icons around this cluster, so it'll just show the cluster, not try to zoom in any further.
Theoretically.
Yeah. See the wildlife sighting.
Have you guys ever had to demonstrate technology in public live? So you understand. Thank you. I appreciate it. Theoretically, if the data is too closely clustered to zoom into the map anymore, it will show you a summarized pop-up, which you can use to then filter the names.
Just like that.
And just to explore it. If there's more than 6 items,
zoom out a little bit and get some things in the map. So the idea here with the time slider is that we allow you to contextually go through a period of time and see where all the rangers, all the animals have moved, as well as when events have occurred. So let's set up. We click down to now, and then we can set the date range. We'll do like the last 7 days. And once that's selected, and we come back to the time slider. You can actually, if you select the time slider, you can use the arrow keys to cycle through the time. So you can see Najin's, our trusty rhinos, making his way down the road here over time, and then Ranger Mwangi's way up top. As we get closer, Najin is still there. Ranger Lee's coming down to see what's going on, and you can see the snare popped up. So they found a snare in that area. So, which is really handy for just, if you knew their incident happened in a certain time frame, we can then cycle through and see what are the different reactions from rangers or other animals in the area. So that's kind of a nice feature to be able to do that. People do use that just to see, what's going on. So that's really handy.
Another good example would be if you're running a debrief and you want to discuss with some of your team members what went well and what didn't go well. You can use this to directly visualize from a very different perspective than those in the field have how things generally transpired through space and time. Not to get too dramatic, to see how you can improve.
Yeah, and you'll also notice when we talked about the clustering. So that's all deactivated when we use the time slider. So that way we can really see everything moving around the map and not clustering. So, all right. Now we're next is talking about in-reach messaging.
All right. So if you use Garmin in-reach devices, they have two-way SMS style messaging on the devices themselves, which we have directly integrated into EarthRanger. This allows your operators to directly communicate and monitor the communications of any in-reach devices in the field. So you can see that you have just a little kind of texting interface style messaging pane. Ranger Maria is walking around with her in-reach. I can say hi. And you'll see a few things. One is that there's no single relationship. So it's not like I'm texting my friend. It is that this message is received by that radio and it's sent to all authorized current users of EarthRanger. So that way you can do collaborative operations. You have multiple EarthRanger operators that need to speak to one ranger or vice versa. So you can see that here someone named Ops Room sent a message and here someone named Admin sent a message, and everybody has the history of that. If they're allowed to.
So there's no secret messaging going on.
Exactly.
Okay.
In better collaboration, you can compose a new message, and this will give you a list of anyone who is messaging capable. And then you can just say, howdy to your Ranger Lee. I don't know why you would. Chris, you want to talk about analyzers?
Yeah. Cool. So built into EarthRanger, we have a list. Let's go back to that one. We have a list of analyzers we support. So, you recall that Gundy, if you've gone to that presentation, it's shipping in all of the collar data, ranger movement data, as well as vehicle movement data. And once it is in the EarthRanger server database, we can analyze that track data. So we have 5 different ways of analyzing that. The first one is geofence, and we saw that earlier. You see in this screen, we've set up this line around, and yellow line means it's the warning line. So if elephant, you can configure it. So if an elephant or ranger came across this line, we would then immediately see an alert, which comes in as a report in the system saying, oh, this person just crossed, or this animal just crossed this line, and being it's the yellow line, it's the amber priority, and then the red line you can set up is a secondary fence, is the primary warning fence that we set up, and then when the animal does cross that one, we get a higher level alert. The geofence is just a line. It's not a box or a polygon. So as we set these up, we draw a line across the map, and then the idea is then when that animal crosses over, then we send up a report in the feed. So the second analyzer we have is immobility. So the idea there is we set up a radius. So if 13 meters is what we use for elephant immobility. So if an elephant hasn't moved outside of this 13-meter radius, so let's say we've collected 3 points over the last 3 hours, and it has not moved outside of this radius, and it's been 3 hours, then we will send up an alert, a report in the system saying, hey, this animal has not moved in 3 hours. So we call that the immobility. The reason why we're having a radius, if you recall, kind of looking at your GPS device as you barely move around or not move around at all, seems like it's always kind of changing a little bit as it triangulates on different satellites. So we don't get false positives. We set up a radius for doing that. So it's a radius, and then it's over time. The next piece is low speed. So over a month, we'll look at the typical track speed of an animal. And so we have an idea, a baseline of what's fast, what's slow. And so if they're down, if the the speed is very slow compared to what it's usually walking along during a time period, then we'll alert by sending up a report in the feed for low speed. And the next piece is feature proximity. So let's see. For that one, that's more the idea is that a lion is carrying a collar, and we want to know when they get near a township or a boma. So we can set up, it will say like these features and this subject, so let's make sure, let's be warned or alerted when this animal moves towards these features. And then the other part of that proximity is between two subjects. So between, usually like between two ranger teams, let's be alerted if two ranger teams are becoming close together. Or as we've done for looking for, pumas or lions mating. When have these two lions come close together? So we can also use that to see what's going on in the animal population. All right, what are we doing next? Alerts. Okay. I think you're gonna do that one.
So the next logical step, operationally, you have these reports that are generated, represent important things happening in your managed areas. But you can't always just be sitting there in front of EarthRanger on your computer, as much as I think that would be beautiful. You are probably a human being doing other things. But that doesn't absolve you of needing to know about dangerous situations or just high priority information coming in. So we provided an interface called Alerts, by which you can receive messages in various formats, be it a WhatsApp individual message, an SMS message, or an email detailing something that is important to you.
So really it's based on any report in the feed, you can set an alert for those.
So here you see, we can, Chris, what's your number? I'll send you an alert.
Yeah, it's 1-206
206
631
631
9822.
9822. Write this down, everybody.
Right. Yeah. That's your EarthRanger support number?
Yeah, direct line. All right, so Chris wants to know that if you have an accident.
That's right. But only the red alert ones. I don't.
Exactly.
Yes.
So to avoid a cry wolf problem where you set up an alert that is too generous with the information it plumbs through and you stop paying attention to them because it's not giving you operationally appropriate information, you can
log out.
Completely log out of the system.
All right.
Which is really helpful.
This is in a demonstration of our log out system. So your token is only good for 2 days.
That's right.
Then you're logged out.
Of course, because I'm demoing, I hit that exact boundary. Anyway, so here we are. We have our notification method set up. We have the alert that we save. But we want it to only be for high priority accidents. So you add a condition, and you can see that it reads that data model that you created for this type of event and allows you to change the parameters of what is important to you enough to merit receiving an alert. In this case, we'll say that the priority is red, but then you also want to know if somebody has failed to set the priority on an accident.
Oh, yes.
Because it violates your SOPs. So you choose red and gray. You save this. And now, what could go wrong if I try to do this in a demo right now? So let's say that we've had an accident. Red priority by default. It was a logout, an accidental logout. Oh, what is this? Oh, type of species. That's right. These are test data.
Yeah.
So,
pangolins only. That's all I care about.
okay. Well, it's not going to let me set that because we didn't set up the data model. You can tell that we really focused on that.
Should we try another event? How about the wildlife sighting? I know that's working.
Sure.
Just quickly drop into the alerts. Let's set that one up.
Add a new one.
Wildlife sighting.
For wildlife sighting.
Perfect.
And we'll just do this for all wildlife
That's right.
sightings.
I love all the animals.
That's right. So here I am.
Yeah, there you go.
Filing a wildlife sighting. Let's say so.
That's right. You need count the species. We already saw this earlier. Good.
Yep.
Save.
Looks good. And then momentarily, within about a minute, because it's SMS.
Should have done WhatsApp.
We should have done WhatsApp. I know that's faster. I'm going to keep going. Chris is going to just cut
We'll
in
let you know when it comes in.
when he's got his alert. All right. We also support third-party reports. So this is just an integration from other report providers. So, like NASA services, like firms that create
Yeah, we have several
reports
of them
about
at this
fires.
point. Yeah, several different fire notification wildlife fires.
That's right. There's also Aurora Tech.
So we have firms. We have Global Forest Watch also has a fire alert. So if you really like Global Forest Watch's, fire alerts, you could use that. Set up a bounding box for it. And then the last one is Aurora Tech, and they're actually here at the show. They've been working with NASA and some other parks. They have I think he was saying it's 15 different fire sources. As far as like different satellites up above. So it's a pretty nice service put together. The other one is camera traps. So all the camera trap vendors we've been working with, we have been having them talk with Gundy to route all of their camera trap data through Gundy, and then Gundy being the glue, then it can forward that onto EarthRanger. So we have support for WPS, their system. We've worked with Conservation X Labs. They have that pumping into EarthRanger, Panthera, and any other vendor could definitely use Gundy to get into EarthRanger. Acoustic detection, I was working with Rainforest Connection. They did a nice interface into EarthRanger, so if they sent it in a report, you can actually go look at the wavelength, look at the audio that was captured that they identified as being of interest to you, and you could then jump off to their website to really go dig deep into that acoustic detection.
Geo-permissions we'll cover briefly. This just allows you to set up for an operator permissions that say, all right, you have to share your machine's current location with the web app, and we will only show you reports of a certain set of types within a, say, 5-kilometer radius of your current location. So this is a little bit of a bespoke solution for needs where the location of the operator has an effect on what they should be allowed to see, and you might need to restrict anything outside of that so that they're not observing things either across boundaries or that aren't in their domain as part of their work. In addition to the individual points that we've detailed, events can be represented by geometries on the map, which you can both draw and then view summaries of.
So that it came out of a request for being able to show the boundaries of during a human-wildlife conflict, if a field had been overrun by elephants, so you could then outline what the damage was. So you could actually take your ER mobile device and set it to one of these collections, which is collecting a polygon, and walk the circumference of the field and then have an accurate representation of what the damage was. And that's being used by KWS. Another cool use of it, it's marking out. I guess you could make an MPA here in the outside of Easter Island. Or for with the Aurora Tech system, we can then outline like how big is the fire containment area. So how much, as the fire grows, we can actually update the representation of that fire on the map with a very large polygon around it.
That's right. So as you can see, I drew a bit of marine crop damage, and you can view a summarized view in the report details, and you can edit it as you see fit by just dragging and deleting points. So there's a lot of flexibility here. It works with both ER mobile and ER web, and it tracks the origin of the creation in case that's important. It will say created by ER mobile, so you know that a surveyor walked around damage in order to trace that, and that it might need hand refinement later.
It's pretty nice because it has a nice summary, tells you how big of the area was and what the circumference is.
Yep.
We're working on other ones. The next one will be a line string.
Yep. We covered patrols already, and in the interest of time, we're going to keep moving forward.
We want to make sure we have time for questions. Okay, ER Public Map. This is an initiative we embarked on with some UW students where we said, how can we make ER data available, track data available to the public without impacting our EarthRanger security and just the performance of the system. So, okay, here we go. It'll take a second to load up. One of the demonstrations of this project was working with Riley Elliott. He's a New Zealand great white shark expert and researcher, and he's been highlighting some of his work. He was able to secure funding for, I think it was like 5 different tags for some great whites. So he was able to tag them, made this available using ER Public Map. So he has his own ER site, and then all the track data that he wants to display is pushed into the public map system. And so he added some pictures you can add in here. We can add some summary text, some nice narrative about the animal that we're viewing, their track. He had just like 500,000 people came to this website over the January and February, which he had it up. And then also had a few news articles. So a lot of traffic came to this website, did not hit the EarthRanger system. So it's nice that this was separate from the EarthRanger. So if you're interested in how can I show a few of my animals, make that available to the public, or work on creating a narrative around that, definitely contact us and we can work with you. Thanks.
All right, we're just going to briefly power through some of our partner offerings as part of the EarthRanger program. So Gundi, a unified data integrations hub. It's just this, in my opinion, just great idea that we went in the direction of taking some of the secret sauce inside of EarthRanger, which was the number of devices that could integrate in it, and say that there is no reason to restrict this only to EarthRanger users because we're all saving the same conservation problems and we shouldn't have to recreate every integration for every application trying to help. So lifted that out into its own application. So now you can write an integration for a device type once. It has no intrinsic ties to EarthRanger, although it is a part of our program. So data in, data out, that's it. If you prefer to use another application to consume that data, you don't want to touch EarthRanger, great. We just want to save you the time of having to write those integrations. We want you to have that real-time information so you can make better decisions and have more context. ER Mobile is a new mobile app that just came out in 2.0 recently. And this is a great tool, especially for ecologists and rangers on patrol. It allows you to start tracking yourself in EarthRanger, file reports, run patrols, configure the map, etc., without any integration whatsoever. So you get an EarthRanger, you get the app, you log in, you're tracked right away, you are a subject. It lowers the barrier to entry in terms of real-time reporting and analysis enormously. It's just great. You guys should download it. It's on iOS and Android, both in the app stores for that. And then our newest offering, Ecoscope, which hopefully some of you attended the excellent presentation yesterday, is our new open source framework for conservation data analytics. It's going to be a very modular and community-oriented approach to providing highly advanced analysis within your systems without necessarily having a full-time scientist in your employ. Chris, do you want to do the last year in review?
Sure.
Or do we want to just take questions maybe?
Yeah, I think we should just roll on with the questions.
Okay. So that's it, I guess. So thank you very much, and we will now open up to questions or feedback or whatever. Thank you. Here, I'll bring the mic over to you.
Great, thank you. Could you please talk about how you can integrate WhatsApp surveys? I know I was talking to one of our partners here in South Africa, and as much as they want to use EarthRanger outside of the protected area, one of the challenges is I think data is expensive here. So what the community does is they just buy one package, one for all. You get Facebook, WhatsApp, all these other things. So if we wanted to rely on the community to provide some of the data sets, we would have to like maybe look into WhatsApp, and then they can feed whatever forms or data there and then pull that into EarthRanger. I'm not sure if that's already happening, but please talk about it.
At this point, we aren't reading WhatsApp messages from the field. It's purely just sending alerts out. It's something we've considered, and as far as like how could we like parse someone typing into a WhatsApp message. That kind of goes together with how do you validate or verify someone sending in information from anonymous sources, into EarthRanger. So we really have to think through what that workflow would look like before we decide to start doing something like that.
So you're saying it's not possible?
It's not a feature that we support today. Taking in random data from text messaging or from WhatsApp.
Yes, WhatsApp forms, right?
I haven't heard of that one before, WhatsApp forms, but I should definitely look at that. Sounds interesting.
Oh yeah, please.
Hi, sorry. I was just wondering, like, in terms of like promoting best practices, for example, around patrolling.
Mm-hmm.
So, pre-patrol briefings and equipment checks, and have you checked your radios working?
Functionality that you see in reports to be able to say, oh, I want to collect these fields for a patrol. So that's where you would be able to do that once we have that support. I don't recall when we'll start to work on that section. That'll come soon.
Thanks. Yeah, great presentation. Sorry we arrived a little bit late. This room's miles away from everywhere else. But just in case I missed it, what's the sort of minimum level of infrastructure that you could use for a site, for example, in terms of being able to do some basic real-time monitoring?
So the minimum is really just an internet connection so that you can bring up the web interface that works successfully over satellite, the old dish satellite uplinks. That's really pretty much it. Let's see. It depends on where your GPS sources are coming from. If it's a Moto Turbo system, then we'd have to look at, well, how do you get connectivity from your site back to the cloud, to send that information up. Viz Garmin InReach, that's all cloud-based, so that'll just drop into the server. And then you just have to have that final internet connection. As far as like mobile, it is designed to work offline. And it has tracking on it. So at some point you have to get connected to the internet. There's no local system like Smart. It's all cloud-based. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add. So at a minimum, in order to use EarthRanger, it depends on how you're using it. So if you don't have any data or devices integrated into EarthRanger and you're using it for data collection, data visualization, maybe data coming from web data sources but not from devices, then all you need is the browser interconnection in order to access EarthRanger. And a megabit, semi-reliable connection will do it. If you want to start, then one layer up from that is adding in EarthRanger Mobile, which will then allow you to track personnel in the field using nothing other than a mobile phone. And if and when they have data connectivity, whether through cellular or if they come back to a command center and they have data connectivity via Wi-Fi, it'll upload all their data. So if they do have cellular connectivity out in the field, it'll track them in real time. If you have internet connectivity in an ops center, whether that looks like an actual ops center or a laptop, then you'll be able to view them in real time. And then it just goes up from there to what are some of the most complicated ones, like a Sabi Sand or Lewa deployment.
Sorry, just to follow up with that, have you guys got that available, as sort of like just documented, like the sort of minimum standards to sort of optimal that we can share with partners and things?
Yeah, we do.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff.
Any other questions? Oh.
And just a mea culpa, the issues that Chris and Joshua ran into with some of the event types is my fault. So hold me accountable. That's my configuration of this demo site that I use 10 times a day, and they just don't know which event types to avoid. The entire thing isn't fully set up, so when it said like error saving report, that's because I didn't bother finishing off the settings of those. So everything was working as expected, and I apologize for having to tap dance.
I was just hoping you could clarify the difference between the tracking and the patrols. They, having not used either of those fields, they look kind of similar.
Oh, okay. So the idea is that you have tracking going on. So you have tracking of animals, and you have tracking of rangers as well as vehicles. And then as far as the patrol, ideally, you're associating that with a tracked subject in EarthRanger. So when you say it's tracked by, you're selecting, this is the subject I'll be tracking by. And so when I've set the patrol start and stop, we then look at that tracked vehicle or animal, ranger, and we would then say, okay, at this point in time, he was here. And then when the patrol stopped, he was here. And then we could look at the line string, all those points, and we can say how long, how far they traveled, and then as well as, how long it was.
So just on I don't know I think it would be the incident sort of, or the incident collection or incident report. Is there a view on that that's sort of tailor-made to like a timeline from a testifying and court point of view? In the old days, you'd do a pocketbook and say, the patrol left at this time and we found this. And is there a way of like a really simple timeline view?
So the reports as you collect them are sorted in chronological order, and you can expand them so that only let's say you have a report with 20 fields, but you only need 2 essentially. In the incident view, when you expand them, you'll only see the collected data, so you can get a very quick summary. And the sort order is different, so if you need to see it from earliest to latest, you can just flip it, and so that way you can walk right through it and present the information as a story, as a timeline of what happened.
And then we do have that print feature, and it's printing out each report, the summary view of each report as well. So you could probably take that to the court.
And to take that to the next level with patrols, because it includes starting time and location, ending time and location, those are also included in that activity feed. So then you have that extra metadata to more clearly articulate what happened. Yes, exactly. And so you'll see your patrol on the map. The track will have a special style to differentiate it from the regular track. So it has special iconography on the map as well. So it's a clear and distinct way to describe something like that.
One more, Greg.
Oh, great.
Just for ER Mobile, how are you seeing that on battery life? What kind of cell phone, like how's that working out?
Definitely it's impacted slightly, as far as battery life. But, if you're already using Google Maps and you have that enabled today, they're using that a lot. It's very comparable to that.
Yeah, I'll add that we also employ a number of tricks to minimize the battery consumption. Like it uses the accelerometer to know if you're moving. So if you're not moving, don't bother turning on the GPS to actually get a fix. And depending on how quickly you're moving, it changes how often it's transmitting something to the server. So we tried to optimize it as much as possible. We don't have any specific metrics around it. I could say that so I know this isn't comparable, but it's indicative. My new iPhone, newer, maybe a year and a half old now, which used to last a day and a half, will now last a day and a quarter.
Right. Well, I think thus concludes the session. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And please find any of us in our green shirts today around the conference for the remainder of the day. If you have any other questions or want a more detailed demo or want us to connect you with a demo EarthRanger site that you can use during the conference to preview and play with some of the features. So, okay, thanks again, everybody.